what do you got for me today?
I have a few actually sheets of math review because I have a test tomorrow. We got a review packet for it.
Okay.
I'd like to go over some of that.
Are these stuff that you can verbalize, or do you need to send me a picture of it?
One of them I think I'll need to send a picture of to you.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead and take that picture. In other words, if it's a graph that needs interpreting or something, you're right. That's hard to do verbally. So go ahead and take that picture and send it to me. And then while we're waiting on that, we can do some ones that you can verbalize.
Yeah.
You took a picture last time and sent it to me, I believe, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. So the only thing you need to type in is DA, and my email address should pop up on your default.
All right. Well, actually, a lot of it's mostly graphs and proofs and stuff.
Yeah,
but
geometry tends to be stuff that you need to take pictures of. Not always, but a lot of times. Okay, I got the first one.
Yeah. That one that you just brought up was that was something we tried to do in class, but it made very little sense to me, I guess.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about a rectangle, what is key about a rectangle? It's the definition of a rectangle.
Well, it's 4 90-degree angles, two parallel sides.
Which means a lot in terms of our parallel and perpendicular. It means that side is parallel to that side, this side is parallel to that side, and we have 4 right angles. So these two sides are perpendicular to the other sides. Well, we know a lot about perpendicular and parallel, right? What's the slope of two parallel lines?
It's even. They're equal.
They're the same. What's the slope of a perpendicular line relative to a parallel line?
90 degrees.
Well, it's the negative reciprocal.
Oh.
In other words, if I tell you the slope of a line is 3, then the slope of the perpendicular line is minus 1/3. Always remember you got to do two things. You got to reciprocate it, and you got to change the sign on it.
All right.
Okay? So that's what we know is we know this slope here needs to be the same as this slope. This slope here needs to be the same as this slope, and this slope needs to be the negative reciprocal of either that or that.
Okay.
Okay? They've given us 8 equations of straight line. Well, we only need 4. In other words, that's going to be 1, that's going to be another one, that's going to be a third, that's going to be a fourth. Each of the equations of those 4 lines will form a rectangle if we pick the right 4.
Okay.
So the first thing we need to do is figure out 2 lines that have the same slope. Wouldn't be a bad starting place.
Okay.
Which 2 lines have the same slope? Let's go through each one of them. What's the slope of this one?
2x.
Remember that you need to get it into y equals mx plus b format.
All right. I think I did that with all of them, but...
Well, when you move the 2x over, you didn't change its sign.
Okay.
So it should be y equals minus 2x plus 8. In other words, you didn't do anything with the 8, because all you did was move the 2x over, and you moved it over by subtracting 2x from both sides. So the slope of that one is minus 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
If I had a pencil right in there, m equals minus 2. And we're just going to figure out the slope of all 8 lines and then figure out which ones are parallel and which ones are negative reciprocals of the other.
Okay.
What's the slope of, well, hold on a moment. Let me just do this way. Slope is minus 2 on that one. Second one, what is the slope?
1/2 x.
You got it written right there. What's the coefficient of the x?
Whoops. It's negative 1/4 of x.
So the slope is negative 1/4.
Yeah.
In other words, it's the coefficient. Once you get it in y equal mx plus b format, which you did here, then the slope is the m.
Okay.
Just the coefficient of the x. Okay. Here, what's the slope?
Negative 1/2.
And the fourth one?
X.
The
or 1, I guess.
The coefficient of the x variable. What's the coefficient of the x variable?
2x.
Just 2. For some reason, a lot of my students want to throw in the x when they talk about slope. Remember, y equals mx plus b. The slope is the m, not the x bar.
Okay.
Okay. So in this one, you've done that properly. Well, slope is 2. Okay. How about the lower left?
1/2 x.
What's the slope? We don't care about,
I guess.
Yeah, we don't care about the x. We want to know what slope is only.
All right.
What's the slope on the second one?
Negative 2.
What's the slope on the third one?
1/2.
And the fourth one?
Just 1.
You didn't do that quite right.
Oh.
Divide both sides by 2.
Yeah.
Actually, you did do it exactly right. My mistake. What's the slope?
Negative 1/2.
So, which 4 of those lines equals a rectangle?
There's 2 negative 1/2s and then 2 negative. There's 2 1/2s and 2 negative 2s.
Okay. Well, I can't have 2 negative 2s. In other words, a negative 2 doesn't go with a negative 1/2. Those are not perpendicular.
Okay.
But I do have a negative 2 there, a negative 2 there. What's the perpendicular to negative 2?
1/2.
I have a 1/2 there, I have a 1/2 there. Those 4 lines should form a rectangle.
All right.
Now, I can throw this out because I only have 1, 2. And I have to have, in order to have a rectangle, I have to have at least 2 lines that have the same slope.
Okay.
Okay. I could work with this one. This has a slope of negative 1/2, so does this. But that would mean I would have to have 2 2s. And I don't.
All right.
I only have 1 2. In other words, if one of the slopes was negative 1/2 and another one was negative 1/2, that would be 2 sides of the rectangle. But the other 2 sides, I would need 2 positive 2s. I don't have them. And throw those 2 out.
Okay.
don't have any quarters other than that one. I can throw that one out. It only leaves the 4 that we circled.
Okay.
Okay? That's an interesting problem. I kind of like it. You don't see that problem expressed quite that way very often. And as far as explaining your reasoning, so all you need to say is that two sides have to be parallel. The opposite sides have to be parallel, and one set of lines has to be perpendicular to another. And that's all the reasoning you need.
All right.
I assume this problem goes with the previous one?
I wasn't actually sure, but I think so now.
Yeah, let's look at the previous one. What did we figure out? We figured out that the slopes had to be -2, -2, plus 1/2, and plus 1/2.
Yeah.
Okay, here, let me write that. So here's what we're looking for. We're looking for two slopes to be -2. And two slopes to be plus 1/2.
Okay.
Does this drawing come close to fitting that picture?
Yeah.
So far, yeah. This looks like a -2 slope. This looks like a -2 slope. They look to be parallel. This is a plus 1/2 slope. So I got two choices on how I can draw my rectangle. I can draw the other line down here, or I can draw the other line up there.
Okay.
And they haven't labeled the grid, so I have no idea where the origin is or anything else. So let's have a look at the two equations. What did we decide they were? I'm not sure I can figure out which side of the line they're on, but I might be able to. Hold on a second. So the top left and the bottom 3 left are our lines. The top left has a y-intercept of 8, -8. So that could be -8 right there. No, -2 has to be that line or that line. And let's see. This is the other -2, which has a y-intercept of -2. So we have -2 and plus 8 are our y-intercepts for these two lines here.
All right.
Well, -2 and plus 8, it doesn't matter where the y-intercept is. This got to be the plus 8. This got to be the -2.
Okay.
Still not sure that's going to help us. And the two lines that have a slope of 1/2 are this one that has a y-intercept of -2. And let's see, we needed a slope of -1/2, didn't we?
Yeah.
Not that one. -1/2 is this one, which has a y-intercept of 1/2, and this one, which has a y-intercept of 2. So in our picture, I would say that's the -1/2, that's going to be the 2, so I'm going to put the line right there.
All right.
And exactly where it goes, there's a lot more algebra we probably need to do to be able to figure out exactly where that line goes. And I'm not sure we want to spend our whole session figuring that out.
Yeah.
Okay, in other words, we know the only way to make a rectangle is to draw a line across there or to draw a line across there. But where that line goes is a little tough. Might have to do some algebra and solving simultaneous equations and stuff. Let's take a look and see what else you got on here. Are these the only two problems you have to do today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also have pictures of some other review stuff, but
You sent them?
I'll send them now.
Yeah, go ahead and send those right now while I'm looking at this and see if there's an easy way to figure out which of these equations goes where. So we've got three equations. We've got y equal minus 2x plus 8 is the top left one. We've got the other one that has the same slope as this one. Y equals minus 2x minus 2. And then the two perpendicular lines are the ones that have the 1/2 slope, which is that one. And the other one is that one there. Who is it, the 1/2 slope or the minus 1/2 slope? It's the minus 1/2 slope. Yeah. So it's that one there, which is minus 1/2 x plus 1/2. And this one over here is minus 1/2 x plus 2. So the question is how do we complete our graph knowing those four equations? Well, this line here has to be this top one relative to the bottom one.
Okay.
The only reason I know that is regardless of where I put the y-axis there, the line on the left hits it at a lower spot than the line on the right, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that this line is this equation. And in terms of what this equation is, let's make none of them have the same y-intercepts. If we know the intercept on this equation right here is minus 2, right? On this equation right there. Well, let's make this dotted line the y-axis, and that would be minus 2. So there's the origin right there. Okay?
Yeah.
In other words, I can draw, unfortunately, this gets pretty complicated, but I think I can draw it. So if that's at minus 2, I know this much of the picture. And then I know that this line goes through plus 8. So that point would be 8 because its B is 8. So the question is where we know that this line that I have, all right, I got it wrong here. We need, how many minus 2's do we have? We had 2 minus 2's. We want plus, we want the lower left and third from the left. Those are our other two equations. So I got it wrong here. So the lower left one is y equals 1/2 x minus 2. And the lower right one is 1/2 x, what's the rest of it? It's the lower right. That equation is 1/2 x plus 2. So there's my 4 equations. And I know which line is that, and I know which line is that. Well, remember I said that if I was going to make minus 2 my intercept right here, then this equation of that line must be that one. Because it crosses the y-axis at the same place. Right? In other words, both this line and this line have the same y-intercept. Minus 2. So that tells me that this line here is that top equation. Okay, so now if I want to draw the only equation left that we're not sure of is that one, well, I know it's above it. And I know it goes through that point right there.
All right.
And that's the final picture. In other words, if we were looking at your thing, we know it's got to be right there, and it's got to be perpendicular to those right there. And the reason it's got to cross right there is because remember I said, well, we're going to pretend that dotted line is the y-axis. That's minus 2, so there's the origin, so there's plus 2. So it has a slope of 1/2. It's got to cross that imaginary y-axis at plus 2. It's got to be right there like that.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's a fairly difficult problem, especially when they do not label the grid. Just it is. You have to kind of figure out a lot of stuff, but it's not a bad problem. It's just an interesting one. All right, that's probably good for today. Mark, I have you down. Which session are we not doing tomorrow? Are we not doing Wednesdays or Thursdays?
I think Wednesdays.
Okay, let me delete that. So we'll be doing Thursday at 4?
Yeah.
All right.
Thursday at 4.
So all I will do is text you the meeting ID number again.
Okay, cool.
Tomorrow, okay? All right,
yeah.
Mark, have a good day. Talk to you then tomorrow.
Thanks, David.
Bye-bye.